An elderly man named Kenji sits on a moss-covered stone bench in the center of a bustling Kyoto train station during the height of the morning rush. Thousands of commuters stream past him in a blur of dark suits and urgent footsteps, the air thick with the mechanical chime of ticket gates and the echoing announcements of departing expresses. Yet Kenji remains perfectly still, resting his hands on a wooden cane, watching the chaos with a faint, untroubled smile, as if he is observing a slow-moving stream rather than a human stampede. He isn't checking a watch, he isn't scrolling through a phone, and he isn't bracing himself against the noise. He exists in a pocket of profound silence that the frantic world around him cannot seem to penetrate. When we look at someone like Kenji, we find ourselves asking why this person seems so different from us. In the West, we are taught that to be still is to be unproductive, and to be quiet is to be left behind. We carry the weight of our to-do lists like heavy stones, and even our moments of rest are often filled with the digital noise of social media or the low-grade anxiety of what we need to do tomorrow. We have become a culture of high-functioning exhaustion, where being overwhelmed is seen as a badge of honor. But in Japan, there is a different understanding of the relationship between the human mind and the world around it. It is a philosophy built on the idea that internal calm is not something you find in spite of the world, but something you cultivate through specific linguistic frameworks of thought. To understand Kenji's stillness, we must first look at the concept of Yutori. It is written with a single kanji character that translates most literally to space or room. However, in a psychological context, Yutori refers to a specific kind of mental and emotional spaciousness. It is the opposite of being full or cramped. Imagine a glass of water filled to the very brim. You cannot move it without spilling. Yutori is the intentional half-inch of empty space at the top of the glass that allows you to carry it through a crowded room without losing a drop. It is the deliberate cushion we leave in our schedules, our hearts, and our minds, so that when the unexpected happens, we have the room to react with grace rather than panic. Complementing this is the concept of Heijoshin. This word is composed of 3 characters, the first meaning flat or level, the second meaning ordinary or always, and the third meaning heart or mind. Together, they describe a constant, level mind. It is the ability to maintain your baseline emotional state, regardless of external circumstances. Whether you are facing a massive promotion or a flat tire on the way to work, Heijoshin is the practice of returning your internal pulse to that flat, level horizon. It suggests that the peak of human wisdom isn't found in intense excitement or deep despair, but in the steady, unshakable middle. In Western culture, we almost systematically destroy our Yutori. We practice time blocking to squeeze every productive second out of the day, and we view an empty 30-minute window as a problem to be solved with more work or more consumption. We operate on a philosophy of maximum capacity. Because we live at the very edge of our emotional and temporal limits, the slightest inconvenience, a slow barista, a red light, a blunt email, causes us to boil over. We have no buffer. This lack of space leads to a state of chronic sympathetic nervous system activation, where our bodies stay in a fight-or-flight mode for hours on end. We wonder why we feel burnt out. But the truth is that we have simply run out of room to breathe. The Japanese approach is backed by significant scientific observation that highlights why this spacious way of living is more than just a cultural preference. Researchers at Hiroshima University, publishing in the journal Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity, and the Arts, have explored how the Japanese concept of ma, or negative space, affects cognitive load. Their findings suggest that when the brain is presented with intentional gaps, whether in visual art or in the pacing of one's day, it significantly reduces cortisol levels, and improves divergent thinking, which is our ability to find creative solutions to problems. Furthermore, a landmark study from the University of Tokyo, featured in the Lancet Public Health, followed thousands of individuals over a decade and found that those who integrated low-intensity intentional stillness into their daily routines had a significantly lower risk of developing stress-related cardiovascular issues. If you are feeling the weight of a world that never stops moving, here is your first daily tactic to reclaim your calm. Practice the 10-minute buffer rule before every transition. In the West, we tend to schedule meetings or tasks back to back, ending one at 2 p.m. and starting the next at 2 p.m.
Tonight, look at your schedule for tomorrow and shift your arrival or start times to include 10 minutes of absolute nothing before each event. This is your Yutori. During these 10 minutes, do not check your phone and do not plan your opening remarks. Simply sit or walk slowly. The second practice is the cultivation of a physical anchor for Heijoshin. Because our minds are so easily swept away by the winds of daily stress, we need a physical reminder to return to our level heart. Choose a small, mundane action you do many times a day. Perhaps it is the act of turning a doorknob, washing your hands, or taking the first sip of a drink. Make a commitment that every time you perform this action, you will take one deep, conscious breath and mentally visualize your internal state flattening out like a calm lake. The third tactic involves the audit of the unnecessary. We often feel overwhelmed not because we have too much to do, but because we are trying to care about too many things at once. The Japanese philosophy of minimalism isn't just about your living room, it's about your emotional energy. Tonight, before you go to sleep, identify one mental obligation you can let go of, a social expectation you're trying to meet, a resentment you're nursing, or a self-imposed pressure to be perfect in a specific area. By consciously deciding that this one thing does not require your emotional investment, you create Yutori in your mind. Living with this quietude doesn't mean moving to a mountain or quitting your job. It means changing the way you inhabit the minutes you already have. It is the realization that the world will always be loud, and the train station will always be crowded, but your internal space belongs to you. When you choose to protect that space, you stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You become like Kenji, the eye of the storm, proving that the greatest power in a chaotic world is the simple, quiet ability to remain unshaken. If this video shifted something in the way you see Japanese quietude, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more on how the world's wisest cultures quietly build calmness, patience, and resilience, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. See you in the next one.